Kyle was a tall, handsome, and fair young man, always the center of attention wherever he went. With a charming smile and a confident presence, he had a way of making everyone feel special. But to Lisa, Kyle was more than just the popular guy in their extended family. He was her childhood friend, her cousin, her confidant. They had grown up together, shared secrets, and supported each other through life's ups and downs. Lisa, on the other hand, wasn't the conventional beauty many would expect from someone who had such a close relationship with someone as charming as Kyle. She was a moderately good-looking girl with an intellectual edge, often seen buried in books, working on assignments, or engaged in deep conversations about her dreams of education and personal growth. Her family, while supportive, often envied her strong commitment to academics and the way she carried herself. But there was one person who never envied her: Kyle. As teenagers, their feelings for each other began to evolve into something deeper, something neither of them had expected. It was during those teenage years that they realized they were madly in love. No one knew about it, not even their families. Their love was something they kept hidden, but to them, it was the most real thing in their lives. Kyle, being the romantic he was, pampered Lisa with small acts of kindness, often surprising her with unique gifts, handwritten cards, and spontaneous dates. Lisa was swept off her feet by Kyle's intense love for her. He would always tell her, "You're the queen of my heart, and no one will ever take your place." Lisa had unwavering trust in Kyle. She never questioned him, despite hearing whispers from the family about his flirtatious nature. Kyle was always surrounded by girls, his charm irresistible, but Lisa knew better. She believed in him, believed in the love they shared. Kyle could never betray her. She was certain of it. They were everything to each other, and every day they dreamed of a future where they could openly love each other, free from judgment. It was one of those summer afternoons when Kyle and Lisa were sitting on their favorite bench in the park. They had spent countless hours in this very spot, talking about everything and nothing and sharing dreams. Kyle, always the romantic, leaned back against the bench, his arms spread out wide as he gazed up at the sky. "You know, Lisa," he said, his voice dreamy, "if I could live in any time period, I'd live in a world where we didn't have to deal with phones, messages, or any of this crazy technology. Just you, me, and a big fluffy blanket on the beach. No distractions." Lisa, who was holding his hand, sitting next to him, smiled. "Aw, that sounds perfect," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "But I bet you'd get bored in like 5 minutes. You'd need something to do." Kyle grinned mischievously, turning his head toward her. "No way. All I'd need is you. We'd be the only 2 people in the world. Who needs a phone when I can just look at your pretty face?" Lisa rolled her eyes dramatically, but her heart fluttered at his words. Kyle always had a way of making her feel like the most important person in the world. "You're such a smooth talker, Kyle. Do you practice that in front of a mirror?" "Only when I'm thinking about you," he said with a wink. "But if you want me to be honest, I don't need to practice. I speak from the heart, and right now, my heart is telling me that you're the most beautiful thing in the universe." Lisa's cheeks turned pink, and she couldn't help but laugh, the sound light and carefree. "Oh, please, you're going to make me blush. You should have been a poet." "Same thing," he replied, his tone playful. "I just prefer to write my love poems directly to you instead of on paper. It's more personal, don't you think?" Lisa chuckled, her heart melting at his words. "You're so full of yourself, Kyle." "Hey, I'm not full of myself. I'm full of love for you. That's a big difference," replied Kyle. Kyle's heart swelled with affection. He took her hand gently and squeezed it. "You'll never have to worry about that. No matter what happens, you're the one I want, and I'm not going anywhere. You've got my heart. Forever." Their faces were inches apart now, and Lisa felt a warmth in her chest and a growing tension in the air between them. She could hear the quiet rhythm of their breathing, matching each other's pace. There was something magnetic about this moment, and despite her usual calm, she felt the pull of desire. Kyle's lips parted slightly, his voice now a low murmur. "Lisa, I just want you to know, I'm not like the others. I'm not going to leave you hanging. When I say I want you, I mean it with every part of me." His breath was warm on her skin, making her shiver. Lisa smiled, her fingers tracing the lines of his hand. "I hope forever comes sooner than later." Kyle grinned, pulling her closer to him. "It will, Princess. It's just a matter of time, and when it does, I promise you, I'll be the best husband ever." Lisa laughed and raised an eyebrow. "Best husband? We're not even married yet." Kyle chuckled. "Well, I'm just practicing for when that day comes. You're going to have the best of everything, I swear." Lisa playfully shoved him. "If you're this sweet when we're just dating, I can't imagine what you'll be like when we're actually married. You might spoil me rotten." "Spoiled?" Kyle leaned in close, his breath warm against her ear. "I'll do more than spoil you. I'll make sure you have the world. You're my everything, Lisa. And when the world sees how amazing you are, they won't be able to believe how lucky I am." She leaned her head on his shoulder, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never felt more sure of anything in her life. "Kyle, do you think we'll be happy, always?" "Always," he whispered. "Just you and me and our two little beauties." The warmth between them felt like a quiet promise. They had each other. And for now, that was all that mattered. But nothing could stay perfect forever. It all started to unravel when Lisa's brother, Harry, found out about their secret relationship. Harry, being protective of his sister, grew suspicious when he noticed the closeness between Kyle and Lisa. He was also aware of Kyle's reputation as a flirt, and he couldn't bear the thought of his sister being hurt. He confronted Lisa one day, accusing Kyle of playing with her feelings. "I saw Kyle with another girl in his car the other day," Harry said, his voice laced with anger. "Do you really think he's serious about you?" Lisa's heart sank. She refused to believe it, her love for Kyle blinding her to anything that could suggest he would betray her. She trusted him completely. Still, the words stung, and she couldn't shake off the nagging feeling in her heart. She went straight to Kyle and confronted him. "Kyle, is there someone else? Harry said he saw you with another girl." Kyle looked at her with genuine confusion, his face scrunching as if he couldn't comprehend the accusation. "Lisa, I can't even think about anyone else but you," he said with intensity, as if the very suggestion hurt him. "I love you. You're the only one for me." Lisa's heart swelled with relief. She believed him, as always. The connection they shared was too deep, too real for her to question. Still, Harry's words lingered in her mind, but she pushed them aside. They continued their secret relationship, meeting in private whenever they could. Their love grew stronger with every passing day, but there were challenges ahead that neither of them could foresee. Kyle's family, unaware of his relationship with Lisa, began to press him about his future. They found a girl from a wealthy family who they believed would be the perfect match for him. Without consulting Kyle, they arranged a proposal, assuming it was in his best interest. The girl came from a family that could provide financially for Kyle's future. When Kyle found out, he was furious. How could his family do this to him without his consent? But his mother, who had always been emotionally manipulative, trapped him with guilt. "Kyle, this is what's best for you," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Don't you want to fulfill your mother's wish? We need this alliance for the family." Kyle was torn. His love for Lisa was real, but his loyalty to his family was also strong. He didn't want to hurt his mother, so he gave in, agreeing to the proposal. When Kyle told Lisa about the marriage arrangement, her heart shattered. She couldn't fathom a life without him, let alone with someone else. But Kyle, ever the romantic, promised her that he would find a way to make things work. "I'm too young to get married anyway," he reassured her. "I still have time. We will find a way to be together." Lisa clung to that hope, but deep down, she knew something was changing. As the days passed, their relationship became strained. The reality of their situation was sinking in, and Lisa began to wonder if they would ever have the future they dreamed of. As the years passed, the hope that they would one day be together had become a fragile thread, ready to snap under the weight of life's responsibilities. Yet every time Kyle reassured Lisa that they would find a way, she held on, desperately clinging to the love that had defined so much of her existence. But the world around them had changed. Kyle's family, eager for him to marry the girl they had chosen, continued to pressure him. His mother's gentle insistence, her quiet manipulations, wore him down. The girl, Wina, had been brought up to be a perfect match for Kyle, educated, well-mannered, and from a family with substantial wealth. Kyle's own desires no longer seemed to matter. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "We need this alliance. It will secure your future." Kyle wanted to fight for Lisa, for their love, but he couldn't deny that his own future felt increasingly uncertain without the support of his family. And so, he did what he thought was best. He began to withdraw. The emotional distance grew, and with it, Lisa's unease. She no longer heard the romantic words from Kyle, nor the promises of a future they would create together. Lisa's world, which had once revolved around Kyle, began to crumble. Now even her brother's accusations echoed in her head. She began to question her own choices. Was Kyle really the man he had once seemed to be? Or was he simply another person who would let her down? But Lisa was loyal, and that loyalty ran deep. She turned down every proposal that came her way. Many had seen the beauty in her intellect and her strength, but to Lisa, no one could compare to Kyle. No one else could ever have her heart. It was on a cold winter afternoon when the truth she had long denied finally caught up with her. Kyle called her, his voice a mixture of sadness and determination. "Lisa, we need to meet for one last time." Lisa's heart skipped a beat. She knew what was coming. She could feel it in her bones even before he spoke the words. "I'm getting married, Lisa, and it's happening sooner than we thought," Kyle said, his voice heavy. "I've been forced into this, but it's happening." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. She had always known this day would come, but hearing it from Kyle himself was a blow she wasn't prepared for. Her world seemed to collapse around her, but she tried to keep it together. She asked him again, her voice shaking, "Kyle, are you happy? Is this what you really want?" "I don't even know this girl," he muttered. "I don't want to marry her. But it's happening anyway. My family, they won't let me refuse." Lisa's heart ached. He didn't want this marriage, but he felt trapped. Her voice broke. "You don't even know her, and you're getting married to her?" "Kyle, you promised me." I know," Kyle said, his tone becoming more apologetic. "But this is out of my hands. I'm sorry, Lisa. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't do anything about this. You have to let me go." Tears flooded Lisa's eyes, blurring her vision. She couldn't fathom the truth, the painful reality that her first love was slipping away from her. She had imagined a future with him, dreams of children, of their home together, of everything they had talked about. She had given him her heart, and now it felt as though he was giving hers back, shattered and broken. Lisa couldn't bear the thought of Kyle marrying someone else, not without knowing the truth. She had always trusted him, but now she needed to see for herself. So one night, she took a deep breath and did something she had never done before. She logged into Facebook. Lisa and Kyle had a joint account, one they had created years ago to share memories of their time together. Kyle had always insisted on keeping her away from Facebook, claiming it was a waste of time and unnecessary distractions. Lisa had trusted him, following his wishes without question. But now, with her heart in turmoil, she couldn't help but wonder if there was something she didn't know. She searched through Kyle's friends list, her fingers trembling. She didn't know what she was hoping to find, but as her eyes scrolled Kyle's profiles, one name caught her attention: Wina. With her heart pounding, Lisa clicked on Wina's profile. And there it was, the truth that Lisa had been desperately avoiding. Wina's profile was filled with photos, messages, and posts that were all connected to Kyle. They had been in constant communication, leaving comments on each other's pictures, sharing inside jokes, and exchanging loving messages. It was clear to Lisa that this wasn't just a recent arrangement. It had been going on for months, maybe years. The shock hit her like a ton of bricks. Kyle had been lying to her all this time. He had told her repeatedly that he didn't know Wina, that he was being forced into this marriage. But as Lisa scrolled through their interactions, it became clear Kyle had known Wina long before he ever admitted it to Lisa. He had never planned to tell her the truth, and the promises he had made to her were nothing more than empty words. The tears poured down Lisa's face as she closed her laptop. Her world, her trust, her entire belief in Kyle shattered in an instant. The next morning, Lisa couldn't wait any longer. She had to confront Kyle. She called him, her voice raw with emotion. "Kyle, how could you do this to me? How could you lie to me for all these years?" she screamed, her voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. The pain in Lisa's chest was unbearable. She couldn't process the reality of what was happening. She had given everything to him, her heart, her trust, her dreams, and he had betrayed her in the worst way possible. "You promised me, Kyle. You promised you would never hurt me like this," Lisa cried. "I know," Kyle whispered, his voice cracking. "And I'm so sorry, but it's too late. This is the life I have to live now, as it's already my wedding day." Lisa hung up the phone, her tears streaming uncontrollably. Her whole world felt like it had been torn apart. She wanted to scream, to fight, to make him understand how much she had loved him. But there was nothing left to say. Kyle went on to marry Wina, living the life they had planned together, building a future that was once meant for Lisa and him, leaving Lisa to her destiny. The day after Kyle's wedding was the beginning of Lisa's slow descent into despair. The night before, she had called him one last time, begging him to reconsider. But he didn't. He had moved on, as if she had never existed in his world. It felt like she was a ghost, a mere figment of his past that no longer had any significance. The phone call she had with Kyle's wife only added salt to the wound. That woman, who had never known the depth of Lisa and Kyle's connection, spoke to Lisa with such coldness, as if she were a stranger with no history. The sheer disrespect Lisa felt from both of them was overwhelming. How could Kyle, the person who once swore to protect her, allow someone else to treat her like an intruder? "Who are you? Why are you calling my husband?" Wina's voice was sharp, possessive. "Kyle and I are married now. It's time for you to move on." Lisa could hardly breathe. "My husband?" The word that Lisa had only imagined for herself was now someone else's right to use. The world seemed to close in around her, suffocating her with each word that Wina said. She could feel the coldness radiating from the other woman, but it wasn't just her. It was Kyle, too. The man she loved, the man who had once been so tender and caring, had become someone else entirely. A part of her wanted to scream at him, to make him understand the pain he had caused, but the silence that followed their confrontation made her realize that he had already made his choice. She had tried to move on, to convince herself that Kyle was just a chapter in her life that had ended, but nothing helped. Every corner of her life seemed to remind her of Kyle. The texts they used to share, the places they once visited, their dreams that now felt like cruel, distant fantasies. She couldn't erase the memories, couldn't let go of the idea that maybe, just maybe, Kyle would return and everything would go back to how it was. But deep down, she knew it was impossible. Her friends tried to support her, urging her to stop looking back, to let go of someone who didn't deserve her. "Lisa, you're better than this. Why are you still holding on to him?" They would say, "Kyle doesn't care about you. He's gone. You need to move on." But Lisa didn't want to hear it. She couldn't. She still loved Kyle, and that love had rooted itself so deeply in her that it seemed impossible to yank it out. Even though he had lied to her, even though he had married someone else, she couldn't bring herself to believe that everything between them was truly over. Months passed since Kyle's wedding, and though Lisa still thought about him constantly, she was learning to live without him. Her heart, though scarred, was slowly healing. But there were still moments of weakness. There were days when she would cry for the girl she once was, the girl who believed in fairy tales, in perfect love. She would look at her phone, at the old messages, and wonder if she had made a mistake by ever loving Kyle so blindly. But slowly, with each passing day, the pain became less overwhelming. Lisa began to accept that her love for Kyle was a part of her, but it no longer defined her. It had been a year since Kyle's wedding, and Lisa had made significant progress in rebuilding her life. Though the pain of betrayal still lingered with her all the time, but she managed to live with that pain throughout her life. It was a cold winter morning when Lisa's family surprised her with news that would shift the course of her life. They had arranged a proposal for her, and it was already decided. It wasn't the first time her parents had talked about marriage, but Lisa had always been focused on her education and her dreams, and so marriage had always been something that could wait. But this time, her mother was adamant. "Lisa, this is the best thing for you," her mother said, her voice filled with urgency. "This man is from a good family. He's well-educated, stable, and well-established. You've worked so hard for your career. Now it's time to build a family. You deserve stability and security." Lisa's mind spun. She hadn't even met the guy, didn't know what he looked like or what kind of person he was. But her family, particularly her mother, had already made the decision for her. It was as if her desires and dreams didn't matter anymore. There were expectations, there was family honor, and there was tradition. Things Lisa had grown up respecting, but had never fully understood. Despite all her internal hesitations, Lisa felt herself being pushed toward this perfect life her parents had designed. The more they insisted, the more she started to feel trapped. How could she say no to them? They had always been there for her, and she didn't want to disappoint them. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "You deserve this, Lisa. It's your turn to be happy." Without truly understanding what she was agreeing to, without even seeing the man, Lisa said yes. But deep inside, Lisa's heart ached. It wasn't the life she had imagined. It wasn't the love she had dreamed of. It wasn't Kyle, and her life is ever going to be perfect ever.